We live in the most connected age in history, with endless information, instant communication, infinite noise, and yet people have never felt more isolated. But what if solitude isn't the curse we have made it out to be? What if being alone is exactly where clarity begins? Today, I want to tell you the story of a man who didn't just accept solitude, he mastered it. A man who walked alone not because he had to, but because he chose to. This is not just the story of a swordsman, this is the legend of Miyamoto Musashi and the path of the warrior who walked through the silence and found truth. Miyamoto Musashi was born around 1584 in Japan, during one of the most violent periods in the country's history, the Sengoku era, a time when feudal lords constantly battled for power. But what is clear is that he was born into a world where survival often depended on the sword. His childhood was shaped not by toys or school, but by steel and survival. His father was a martial artist, but discipline didn't come from gentle teaching, it came from violence. At the age of 13, Musashi stepped onto the dirt of a village field, faced a grown swordsman with nothing but a wooden stick, and walked away alive. That duel didn't just mark a victory, it marked the death of the child and the birth of a warrior. But Musashi didn't walk the path everyone expected. While other samurais bowed to lords and sold their sword for silver and praise, Musashi refused. He chose the harder path, the path of a ronin, a masterless samurai, wandering across Japan, challenging the best warriors he could find. His goal wasn't fame or wealth, but perfection. He believed that true mastery could only be achieved through experience, not by serving in the shadow of another man's name. Had he joined a court, he would have had comfort, but never clarity. Musashi understood that true mastery isn't given by status, it's carved alone through sweat, blood, and silence. Over the years, Musashi fought more than 60 duels, never once tasting defeat. These weren't just battles, they were awakenings. He challenged the entire Yoshioka clan in Kyoto, defeating their best with the strategies that bordered on madness. He would arrive late to disorient his enemies. He would fight dirty, smart, unpredictable. And when he faced Sasaki Kojiro, Japan's finest swordsman, Musashi didn't just kill him, he outthought him, crafting a longer wooden sword from an oar, arriving late on purpose, forcing Kojiro into emotional chaos. That wasn't just a duel, it was domination through presence, through poise, through psychological warfare. Though feared and respected for his combat skill, Musashi wasn't just a warrior, he was also an artist, a philosopher, and a strategist. He spent much of his free time painting, sculpting, and writing. His path was soaked in solitude, and solitude doesn't make you kind, it makes you real. It forces you to confront not just your enemies, but yourself. Musashi didn't numb that pain with distraction, he studied it, transformed it. While others sought comfort, he carved sculptures, wrote poems, painted delicate art with the same hands that once took lives. Each duel taught him about others, but solitude taught him about himself. As he grew older, he gradually stepped away from dueling and turned inward, focusing on the deeper meaning behind conflicts, discipline, and self-mastery. He realized that true strength was not just physical, it was mental and spiritual. And in his final years, he went deeper into the quiet. He left the noise of the world behind and entered a cave called Reijando, with no wealth, no audience, just stone walls and self-reflection. There, he wrote the Book of Five Rings, a profound guide on strategy, combat, and the philosophy of life. The book remains one of the most respected works on martial arts and leadership to this day. Musashi died in 1645, around the age of 61. He passed away peacefully in the same Reijando cave where he reached his final potential. His life had been one of relentless discipline, self-discovery, and an unbreakable will to master not just the sword, but the self. Even centuries later, Miyamoto Musashi remains a symbol of the warrior spirit, fearless, free, and forever sharpening his blade. Musashi didn't seek fame, he didn't crave victory. What he chased through blood, through silence, through decades of solitude was understanding. He wandered not just across roads, but across ideas. The real enemy wasn't the man in front of him, it was the illusion inside him, the illusion of comfort, of identity, of needing anything but himself. To the world, he was a warrior, but in truth, he was something far rarer, a man who chose to be alone on purpose. Long before it became a virtue in self-help books, Musashi discovered what most people never do. Solitude isn't a prison, it's a forge. Inside it, you hear the voice that gets drowned out in the crowd. You confront the ugliness you have been distracting yourself from, and you begin to refine it. In the cold silence of the Reijando cave, he didn't grow soft, he sharpened. There, without applause, without comfort, without distraction, Musashi wrote the Book of Five Rings, not as a celebration of his victories, but as a map for those willing to face themselves. It's not a book about flashy techniques, it's a philosophy of discipline, of clarity, of detachment from anything that weakens the edge. He warned against the preference, against attachments, against being predictable. You should not have a special fondness for anything, because fondness becomes dependence, dependence becomes weakness, and weakness is what cracks when the world pushes back. For Musashi, mastery wasn't about technique, it was about perception. He trained not just his hands, but his awareness, rhythm, emotion, psychology. He watched how opponents breathed, how they hesitated, how they lied to themselves, and he only saw that clearly because he had spent years watching himself first. Do nothing which is of no use. That wasn't minimalism, that was a war against distraction. Even his concept of void, misunderstood by many, wasn't about emptiness, it was about clarity. To reach it, you had to let go of fear, ego, and even thought itself. You had to stand in the storm with no identity left to protect, only instinct. And that's why Musashi still matters today, because we live in a world where everyone is loud, but almost no one is clear, where solitude is avoided, not embraced, where the average man is shaped by trends, swayed by opinion, and broken by stillness. But Musashi chose the opposite. He walked into the silence and walked out sharpened. That's the real lesson, not how to win a duel, but how to be alone and become dangerous. In a world that never stops talking, Musashi's silence still echoes. He lived without luxury, without comfort, without constant praise, yet somehow he saw clearer than most ever will. Why? Because he embraced the one thing everyone today runs from, solitude. So, how can you reach that kind of awareness in today's noisy world? Just start where he did. Strip the noise, reject what numbs, choose stillness over stimulation, not as an escape, but as a mirror. Sit with your mind, not your feet. Study yourself the way Musashi studied the blade, not to impress others, but to understand. You don't need 60 duels, you don't need a cave, but you do need courage. The courage to walk alone while others crawl, to feel misunderstood and keep moving, to go deeper when everyone else is staying shallow. Musashi wasn't a ghost or a myth, he was a man, flawed, brutal, and relentless. But in the quiet, he found something timeless. Clarity without noise, direction without permission, power without pride. That's the path he left behind, not for the many, but maybe for you. As he once wrote, step by step, walk the 1,000-mile road. So the only question left is, will you take the first step? You have seen what a lone swordsman found in silence. Now meet the emperor who found peace in power, a philosopher emperor who, in the heart of Rome, discovered the same truth Musashi found in solitude. You can find his story right here.